entropy. So we talked about entropy, the natural entropy. Moral entropy. Now I'm going to read to you the slippery slope argument. The slippery slope argument. Also referred to as the camel's nose under the tent and wedge arguments, one of the most famous ideas in ethics and politics. It is often used to oppose any change in society involving medicine or restriction of rights. It envisions a continuous slope where there is good reason for taking the first step, but where at the bottom of the slope there is a morally repugnant result. The slippery slope argument, penned by Gregory Pence in a dictionary of common philosophical terms. So this is what I did. I made up the words moral entropy. I coined the term moral entropy to capture the idea presented by the slippery slope argument in the context of this study. Not only has there been a consistent physical decay in creation, but the moral slide of society needs to also be addressed. Unfortunately, the standard of morality sinks lower and lower with each successive generation. With each compromising decision, it seems to be following the same pattern of deterioration that is seen in nature. Acceptable behaviors tend to be relative. So moral regression is only noticeable to those who maintain absolute standards. One of the most disappointing traits of humanity as a whole is a lack of awareness of God. For some strange reason, we can stare directly into the awesome wonder of his handiwork and refuse to acknowledge him. If we step back from the conflict between science and religion, we will notice that the foundation of secularism is pride. Deep in our hearts, we know that everything we see could not have taken place by chance. It's hard to deny that the order of the universe must have an origin. However, such an admission would mean that there is someone more powerful than we are, or possibly could ever be, who can hold us accountable for our actions. For many people, that's where the problem lies. We refuse to admit that somebody bigger than us must have done what we see. Why? Because if he is bigger than us, then we are accountable to him, which is a problem. Because we don't want to be accountable to anybody. So what we do here is what I would call the ostrich approach. If I stick my head in the sand and say, there is no God, there is no God, there is no God, then I don't have to answer to him in my own imagination. The slippery slope argument, moral entropy, faith science, where faith and the scientific method collide. Number one, Romans 1, 18 to 20. Romans 1, 18 to 20. Romans 1, 18 to 20. Faith science, where faith and the scientific method collide. Romans 1, 18 to 20. When you get there, say amen. And how did you get there before? The guy with the computer. All right. I'm there. Romans 1, 18 to 20. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has showed it unto them. Let me read this in the New Living Translation. This is going to break it down even better. And we're looking at 18 to 20. Listen to how the New Living Translation breaks this down. But God shows his anger from heaven against all sinful, wicked people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. They know the truth about God because he has made it obvious to them. For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God. People who claim to be atheists or agnostics because of the church's failure to testify accurately of God are lying to themselves. In addition, Christians who blame the church for not convincing the world of their need for God are completely deceived. According to the Apostle Paul, people have no excuse for not knowing God. That's especially true for those who study natural sciences like physics, chemistry, and biology. It's also true for philosophers. The deeper we get, the more we can see his invisible qualities, and less we can deny his power. At some point, it becomes less of a need for proof and more of a choice to rebel against the truth. They don't need proof. They have enough. They are rebelling against the truth. Romans chapter 1 verse 21. Let's keep moving. It gets deeper, it gets more exciting. I'm going to read it in New Living Translation. Yes, they knew God, but they wouldn't worship him as God or even give him thanks. And they began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused. Claiming to be wise, they instead became utter fools. And instead of worshiping the glorious, ever-living God, they worshiped idols made to look like mere people and birds and animals and reptiles. Without God, the pursuit of knowledge turns into idol worship. I've met several thinkers who claim to have once believed in Jesus, but walked away for various reasons. I've also met those whose arguments break down under the right kind of pressure and expose their true nature. They knew God, and even if they didn't know him the way we do, they realize that his existence cannot be denied. It also cannot be disproved by any scientific process. They came up with their own ideas, and that's when things went haywire. Darkness and confusion entered, not because they were supposed to, but because the light was rejected. Now they parade themselves as possessing wisdom apart from God. Some say they are evolutionists, and we are creationists. Evolutionists say they are true scientists, while creationists only believe in fiction. Sadly, such foolishness turns from a pursuit of knowledge into idol worship. Since they don't worship God, and all humans were created for worship, they find someone else to worship. That someone most of the time ends up being popular scientists or philosophers. For instance, Charles Darwin is God for several who study his work. Many also worship the work of the modern thinker Richard Dawkins. Some others won't give credit to another man, but choose to worship themselves or science itself. Science is my God. Let's keep it moving.